How can we thrive during times of chaos? We are living at times of a huge transition, and the yogis have been meditating and preparing for it for a long time. They did keep some records that did survive. The thousands, every couple thousand years, the axis of the planet of the Earth shifts. And in the year 2000, that axis started tripling its speed. The magnetic North Pole, not the physical North Pole. And this affects the compasses for ships and for airplanes in there as they plot their course around the globe. This affects our frontal lobe. We also have smartphones and iPads and massive amounts of information coming into our minds all the time, all day, which is new to this generation or these generations that are experiencing it. The mind gets overloaded the same way as your devices get overloaded, have to be rebooted. The mind needs to be cleaned and decluttered so it can work well and have mental health, mental feeling of well-being. So you put all this together and you shake it up, and basically the age that we're moving out of was an age based on fear. So there was insecurity, there was domination, there was greed, there was control. And we're moving into a time where we have the opportunity for a lot more partnership, a lot more respect, a lot more peace, and win-win solutions. And so this is not just happening from the outside. We're all getting pressurized to change on the inside to deal with our own regret, our own bitterness, our own anger, our own fears, all of this to see if we can get a hold of our mind and meditate or hold in the mind. You know, your mind's kind of like a radio. It never shuts up. It's always going. And so the question is, what is your mind where is it parking itself? Where do you get stuck? What are your rabbit holes? And so the idea of the yogis and what they found, the science of the body and the mind, is totally anchored in the breath. The breath is what makes you alive, and the breath is what can help you get a hold of your mind and adjust your mood. You know, your mood, your emotions are really important. They have a lot of sway. You know, they really move your vehicle on the road. They fertilize things. When you put a lot of motion onto any idea, that's like fertilizing that idea. And that idea starts to sprout and it starts to take life. And you want to make sure that in the garden of your mind, you've weeded out the stuff that you don't want to eat the fruit of. You want to plant the crop and the fruit trees that you want to eat, that you like. And so you need to be able to get a hold of your breath so that you can get a hold of your thoughts. So you can really focus in and play most of the time what you prefer, what you would like, what is good for you and those around you, not what you don't like, not worrying about. Not that you don't see what's wrong, not you don't see what, you know, what's not safe, not that you don't see and strategize and plan and use your mind for those very important tasks. This intelligence of your frontal lobe is getting overwhelmed by this shift in the axis. So it's really important to take the time to really sit down and do what Ben Franklin did, the pros and the cons of life. You know, anything that you're trying to decide, look at the pros and look at the cons, and then hold them both and decide from an altitude that is your intelligent, intuitive self. But where you park your mind, which station, which channel on the radio of your head do you spend most of your time, most of your day? This is the key. Get a hold of your mind and your life will improve. And it will, instead of being so up and down, it'll mellow out and get more smooth. Even though it'll still have the ups and downs, they won't feel as harsh. If you can remember that you have a breath and learn to breathe down into the lower lobes, get more oxygen and more life energy into your cells, and then be able to train your mind and direct it towards what you do want instead of towards what you don't want, because everybody worries. We're human. We make mistakes. We learn more from our mistakes than we learn from the stuff we do exactly as we had hoped. So this life is about learning and forgiving what we didn't know, as Maya Angelou says, forgiving ourselves for what we didn't know before we learned it, what we didn't know and the mistakes that we made, and then healing from them and moving forward with joy. Joy comes from that spiritual self that comes from your breath. And we're living in chaotic times where we have a huge opportunity to change, huge opportunity to grow. And it all comes back to your breath and then where you're parking your mind. You conquer your mind, and then your whole world can fall into place. And we will do more on breath and breathing, because it's not that hard, even though you've been breathing all your life. And you've been breathing from your first breath and you know how to do it automatically. It's important to learn how to breathe consciously. And we'll work on that in the future in a separate clip. Take care. Very glad to meet you.